Have you ever looked at a man and thought, why does he stay with her but didn't stay with me? It's a question many women secretly ask themselves when a relationship ends, especially when they see the same man who once seemed distant, cold, or unavailable suddenly become attentive, devoted, and consistent with someone else. It almost feels unfair, doesn't it? You gave your best. You loved deeply. You tried to understand him, to be patient, to make things work. Yet somehow, he drifted away. And now there he is, showing up for another woman in all the ways you wished he would have shown up for you. But here's something most women never realize. Men don't stay because of how much you love them. They stay for two very specific and hidden reasons. And until you understand those two reasons, no amount of love, loyalty, or effort will ever make a man stay. You see, love alone has never been enough for a man. He can be deeply attracted to you, he can even feel connected to you. But if these two invisible forces aren't triggered inside his mind, something inside him will always pull away. It's not about you being too much or not enough. It's about what his psychology needs in order to feel emotionally safe and magnetically drawn to one woman, and only one. Every man has his own version of emotional gravity. You might think you can keep him through attention, kindness, or care, but what really keeps a man invested, what truly roots him to a woman, are these two secret motivations that most women never see. And the truth is, many women sabotage both without even realizing it. They overgive, they over-explain, they try to prove their worth. They think, if I just show him how much I care, he'll finally see my value. But that's not how the male mind works. A man doesn't stay because you prove you're worthy. He stays because something in you triggers a deep emotional imprint that makes him want to stay, even when it's difficult, even when life tests the relationship. Maybe you've been in that position before, where you could feel the distance growing. You noticed he started texting less, taking longer to reply, becoming colder. You felt the tension rising, but you kept holding on, believing that if you just loved him harder, things would go back to how they were in the beginning. But they didn't. And deep down, you felt something break, not just in the relationship, but inside you, because you realized that love wasn't enough to make him stay. The question is, what is? What makes one woman unforgettable, while another becomes a memory? What makes a man fight for a relationship, instead of running away from it? What makes him wake up one day and say, she's the one I don't ever want to lose? That's what we're going to uncover today. By the end of this video, you'll understand the two secret reasons that determine whether a man stays or slowly fades away. And once you understand this, you'll stop chasing emotional clarity from men who can't give it, and start radiating the kind of energy that naturally commands respect, loyalty, and emotional pursuit. Because here's the truth, when you understand what really drives a man to stay, you stop begging for love. You become the woman he never wants to let go of, not because you begged, but because something in you awakened his deepest need for connection. So if you're tired of being the one who gives everything and still ends up empty, stay with me. Because once you see the truth behind these two hidden motives, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. Let me tell you about a woman named Emily. She was smart, gentle, and genuinely loving, the kind of woman who gives everything when she's in love. When she met Daniel, she felt that spark instantly. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who makes you feel like you're the only one in the room. At first, everything felt like a dream. He texted her every morning, called her at night, made plans for the weekend before the week even started. He seemed captivated by her energy. He'd say things like, "You're different. I've never met anyone like you." And Emily believed it. She believed this was finally the kind of love that would last. But slowly, something began to shift. Daniel started to pull back. He stopped making as much effort. He still cared, but he was no longer the man who would cross the city just to see her for 10 minutes. He became distant, physically there, but emotionally absent. Emily noticed it, but she didn't want to lose him. So she tried harder. She started initiating every conversation, planning every date, sending long messages explaining how she felt, hoping he'd understand. She wanted to be seen, to be chosen, to feel that same excitement again. But the more she tried, the colder he became. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't dismissive, he just wasn't present anymore. Her words didn't reach him like before. Her effort didn't move him. And the worst part, he didn't even seem to realize how much she was trying. One night, as they sat in silence at dinner, Emily asked softly, "Did I do something wrong?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment before saying, "No, I just don't feel the same connection anymore. That was it. No fight, no betrayal, no big reason. Just distance. Just that invisible wall that so many women feel but can't explain. After he left, Emily spent months wondering what she did wrong. She blamed herself. Maybe she wasn't fun enough. Maybe she was too emotional. Maybe she loved too much. But the truth was, none of those were the reasons he left. He didn't leave because she cared too much. He left because the two things that make a man stay were never truly activated in him. A few months later, Emily saw Daniel on social media, smiling with another woman. They looked happy, in sync, effortless. And the same man who once avoided conversations about the future was now posting photos captioned, "My forever." It felt like a punch in the chest. Because she thought, why her? What does she have that I don't? And the answer, though painful, wasn't about looks, success, or even love. It was about the psychological connection she unknowingly created, something that reached the deepest part of him. Daniel didn't stay with her because she was prettier or better. He stayed because she triggered those two secret needs that every man carries but rarely understands. And once those needs are met, a man doesn't just stay, he bonds. He roots himself. He feels peace in her presence, purpose in her connection, and meaning in her love. That's what Emily didn't know back then. She thought love was about trying harder, but it's not. It's about understanding the silent language that speaks directly to a man's instincts. And once you learn that language, you stop trying to convince a man to stay because he wants to stay. Every man, no matter how complicated he seems, has two emotional switches inside him. One is logical. It's about how he perceives the relationship and what it brings into his life. The other is emotional. It's about how the relationship makes him feel as a man. When both are triggered, he feels complete with you. When they're not, he starts searching for that feeling somewhere else, and even if he can't explain why. Emily's story is not unique. It's the story of countless women who gave their best, loved sincerely, and still ended up feeling like they weren't enough. But the truth is, they were enough. They just didn't know how to connect with those two secret reasons that make a man choose to stay, fight, and commit. And that's what we're going to uncover next. Not through theory, but through the real psychology of the male mind. Because when you finally understand what drives a man to stay, everything changes. Not just how you love, but how you're loved in return. The truth is, every man, no matter how strong, independent, or emotionally guarded, stays with a woman for only two reasons. And these reasons aren't what most women think. They're not about beauty or sex, or even love in the romantic sense. They're about something much deeper, something that speaks directly to his core identity. The first reason is emotional admiration, and the second is emotional peace. Let's start with admiration, because this is where most women, without realizing it, lose the connection. A man doesn't stay where he feels criticized, compared, or constantly tested. He stays where he feels seen, not just for what he does, but for who he is when he's with you. When a woman admires a man, not with empty compliments, but with genuine recognition of his essence, something awakens inside him. He starts to associate her presence with confidence, with strength, with purpose. Men are wired to seek a sense of achievement. They want to feel like they matter to someone, and not because they're perfect, but because they're capable of giving, protecting, and providing in their own way. When a man feels admired, he doesn't just feel loved, he feels respected. And respect to a man is love in its purest form. But when admiration disappears, when he feels like he's constantly disappointing her, when his efforts are unnoticed, when every word turns into a test, that same man starts to disconnect. He might still care, he might still want her, but emotionally, he'll start to retreat. Because deep down, he's no longer feeling like a man in that relationship. The second reason, emotional peace, is what makes a man stay long-term. If admiration is what attracts him, peace is what anchors him. You can be the most beautiful, intelligent, loving woman in the world. But if being around you feels like walking on eggshells, he will eventually look for calm elsewhere. Men don't stay in relationships that drain them emotionally. They stay where they feel safe, where they can let their guard down without being judged, corrected, or constantly told how to feel. Peace doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means emotional safety. The ability to talk, disagree, and express himself without fear that every mistake will cost him the relationship. When a woman creates peace, a man's nervous system relaxes around her. He feels like he can breathe again. He doesn't have to perform. He doesn't have to prove, he can just be. And that feeling of being accepted and trusted is rare for most men. They live in a world that constantly tells them to be strong, man up, don't feel too much. So when he finds a woman who allows him to feel human, not weak, that's when he realizes he's home. But here's the paradox. Many women trying to secure love end up destroying both admiration and peace without realizing it. They overanalyze his every action. They try to control the pace of the relationship. They point out what he's doing wrong instead of what he's doing right. Not because they're bad, but because they care too much. They think, if I help him improve, he'll become the man I need. But to him, it feels like constant pressure. It feels like he's failing. A man's heart doesn't open under pressure. It opens under appreciation. When a woman starts to say, I see how hard you're trying. I love the way you think, or even just, I trust your judgment. That's when he starts to lean in. Because now, she's not just his partner, she's his peace. And a man will never leave his peace. Think about it. The men who walk away rarely leave because they stopped caring. They leave because they stopped feeling like themselves in the relationship. They became versions of themselves they didn't recognize. Quieter, more defensive, less alive. And when that happens, he begins to associate the relationship with stress instead of connection. But when he feels admired and at peace, everything changes. He naturally becomes more affectionate. He starts initiating plans. He opens up emotionally, not because she demanded it, but because she created an environment where it feels good to open up. His loyalty grows, his consistency stabilizes, and his desire deepens. These two motives, admiration and peace, are the invisible forces behind every man's decision to stay. They're the unspoken emotional currency that builds commitment. You can't buy it with beauty, you can't force it with words, and you can't fake it with games. It comes from presence, from authenticity, from a quiet kind of strength that says, I see who you are, and I trust you to lead us. That's the energy men crave but can't explain. It's what makes a man look at a woman and say, there's just something about her. He can't describe it. He just knows that when he's with her, he feels capable, grounded, and understood. And when he's away, he misses that feeling more than he misses her face. Because at the end of the day, love is not what keeps a man. Peace and admiration do. That's what bonds him. That's what makes him choose the same woman, day after day, even when the world outside tempts him with distractions. It's not a spell. It's not manipulation. It's alignment with how the male mind truly works. When you understand these two reasons, you stop chasing, you stop begging, you stop proving. Instead, you become magnetic, effortlessly, naturally, quietly, because your energy speaks directly to his instincts. And once those instincts awaken, there's no turning back. Here's where most women lose themselves. They confuse intensity with connection, attention with affection, and temporary passion with true emotional safety. They start thinking, if I just show him more love, if I just try harder, he'll stay. But the harder they try to hold on to him, the more he slips away. Not because he doesn't care, but because the energy has shifted from emotional attraction to emotional pressure. When a man feels constantly analyzed, corrected, or compared, his mind starts associating the relationship with tension. Every conversation feels heavy. Every message feels like a test. He begins to protect himself instead of connecting. And here's the tragic part. She doesn't even realize it's happening. She thinks she's fixing things. But from his perspective, she's slowly taking away the two things he needs most, admiration and peace. And when those two disappear, a man starts to drift emotionally long before he leaves physically. You'll notice it. Shorter answers, colder tone, fewer plans. He starts to look for comfort somewhere else. Not always in another woman, but sometimes in work, in friends, in distractions. Because the relationship that once gave him energy now drains him. That's the moment when most women panic. They start overgiving. They cook more, text more, chase more, forgive faster, and lose themselves trying to bring back the man they once knew. But the truth is, the more you chase, the more he runs. Because men don't respond to pressure. They respond to space. They don't return because you begged them to. They return when the feeling of admiration and peace comes back. And here's the dangerous cycle. If you don't understand these two reasons, you'll keep repeating the same emotional pattern with different faces. You'll meet a man, feel an instant spark, and fall into the same rhythm, giving, hoping, waiting, losing. You'll keep wondering why love always fades, why every man eventually pulls away. But once you understand that men don't stay for attention, they stay for alignment, everything changes. Because here's what happens when a woman truly gets it. She no longer tries to force connection. She no longer chases clarity. She becomes centered, calm, grounded, emotionally strong. And that shift changes everything about how men treat her. Her energy speaks before she does. It says, "I'm not here to convince anyone to stay. I'm here to be chosen." That's when men feel something rare, respect. Not the kind that's demanded, but the kind that's earned through quiet confidence. And the truth is, men fall deeply in love with women who carry this energy. Not because they play games, but because they make him feel safe and significant at the same time. If you keep ignoring this, you'll keep trying to love men into staying. And love by itself has never been enough. But when you start embodying admiration and peace, everything shifts. He starts to look at you differently. He listens when you speak. He prioritizes you without being asked. Because now he's not just staying out of comfort, he's staying out of choice. Think about how many women end up heartbroken not because they weren't loved, but because they were loved temporarily. Loved in moments of passion, but not in moments of silence. That's because love without peace is chaos. Love without admiration is exhaustion. And when a man feels that combination, admiration for who he is and peace in how you love him, that's when he realizes he's found something worth protecting. So here's the urgency. Stop trying to be everything to every man. Stop giving endless chances to people who can't even meet you halfway. Start protecting your energy the way you wish others would protect your heart. Because the woman who understands her worth becomes unforgettable. And when a man meets a woman like that, he doesn't play with her. He commits to her. Not out of fear of losing her, but out of gratitude for finding her. Remember this, every man, no matter how complicated he seems, is guided by simplicity. He stays where he feels admired and at peace. He leaves where he feels judged and drained. And the moment you stop fighting for someone to stay is often the moment he finally realizes your value. Because men don't stay for effort, they stay for emotion. Not the emotion you give, but the emotion they feel when they're around you. And once you understand that truth, you'll never chase anyone again. Now that you know the truth, everything about how you see men will start to change. Because once you understand that a man only stays for admiration and peace, you stop wasting energy trying to prove your value and start focusing on protecting your energy. The woman who understands this doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't try to convince anyone to see her worth. She moves differently. She speaks with calm instead of fear. She shows up fully, but she also knows when to walk away. And that's the kind of woman that no man ever forgets. Not because she played games, not because she tried to be perfect, but because she created something most men spend their whole lives searching for. A space where they can feel both powerful and peaceful at the same time. Think about it. Every man is drawn to beauty, but he stays for peace. He might admire confidence, but he commits to consistency. He might desire excitement, but he craves safety. And when a woman embodies all of that, admiration for who he is, and peace in how she loves, she becomes irreplaceable. So if you're watching this and realizing that you've been doing it all backward, loving too hard, trying too much, waiting too long, don't blame yourself. You were taught to give love, not to protect it. You were told to be kind, not to be calm. You were told to prove your value, not to trust that your value speaks for itself. But from this moment on, everything can change. You can choose to stop chasing connection and start attracting it. You can stop fighting for men who make you feel small and start standing in the kind of energy that commands respect without demanding it. Because when you embody peace and admiration, in your words, in your silence, in your presence, something magical happens. The wrong men disappear, and the right ones recognize you immediately. You stop asking, "Why didn't he stay?" and start saying, "Thank God he left." Because now you understand that losing someone who couldn't value your peace is not a loss, it's protection. Never forget this. A man may be attracted to your looks, impressed by your charm, or touched by your kindness, but he will only stay if he feels admiration and peace. Everything else fades. These two feelings remain. And the woman who understands that becomes the kind of woman a man never wants to lose. Not because she needs him, but because being with her makes him feel more like himself. So stop asking, "What can I do to make him stay?" Start asking, "How can I return to my peace?" Because when you live from that place, You become magnetic without even trying. You stop performing, stop pretending, stop proving. You attract naturally, effortlessly, beautifully. That's the secret. That's what most women never learn. But now you know. And knowledge like this changes everything. From today on, protect your energy the way you protect your heart. Don't let anyone disturb your peace in the name of love. And remember, the man who is meant for you won't need convincing. He will recognize your worth, respect your presence, and find comfort in your peace. So take a deep breath, lift your head, and promise yourself this. You will never again fight to be understood by someone who doesn't listen. You will never again beg to be chosen by someone who doesn't see you. And you will never again shrink yourself just to make someone else comfortable. Because the woman you're becoming, calm, confident, grounded, is exactly the kind of woman a man stays for. Not out of habit, not out of guilt, but out of love that feels like home. And when you understand that truth, you no longer need to chase love, because love starts chasing you.